The year was 1999. The date, December 24th, Indian Airlines flight IC814, a routine flight from Kathmandu to Delhi, was cruising at 35,000 feet, a silent metallic bird soaring over the snow-capped peaks of the Himalayas. The festive cheer of Christmas Eve filled the cabin, oblivious to the nightmare that was about to unfold. Among the holidaymakers and families returning home, 5 men, their faces hidden behind scarves, masked their true intentions. This was no ordinary journey, this was a hijacking. The terrorists struck with chilling swiftness, brandishing pistols and grenades, their eyes glinting with fanaticism. The initial shock gave way to terror as passengers and crew realized the gravity of their predicament. The plane, now a metal prison, veered sharply off course, its trajectory mirroring the hijackers' sinister agenda. The world watched in horror as the news broke, the festive spirit of the season shattered by the cold reality of terrorism. The hijackers, members of the Harkat-ul-Mujahideen, a Pakistan-based terrorist organization, barked orders, their voices laced with menace. The passengers, now hostages, huddled together, their faces pale with fear, their hearts pounding with every barked order. Leading the group was a young man with piercing eyes and a chillingly calm demeanor. Maulana Masood Azhar's release was non-negotiable. The hijackers' ruthlessness was soon apparent. Within minutes of seizing control, they stabbed a young passenger, Ripon Katyal, leaving him to bleed in the aisle, a grim warning to anyone who dared to defy them. The air grew heavy with the stench of fear and the despairing sobs of helpless passengers, their Christmas dreams turning into a living nightmare. The world watched, holding its breath, as the hijacked plane became a pawn in a dangerous game of international terrorism. The hijacked aircraft became a nomad in the sky, embarking on a terrifying odyssey. First, a forced landing in Amritsar, India, a desperate plea for fuel met with frustrating delays. Then Lahore, Pakistan, where the hijackers' true allegiance seemed to shimmer into view, but the Pakistani authorities, wary of being drawn into the crisis, refused landing permission. Onward the plane flew, a metal hostage in the hands of its captors, finally landing in Kandahar, Afghanistan, then controlled by the Taliban regime. The world watched, a silent spectator to this terrifying game of geopolitical chess, each landing a stark reminder of the hijackers' desperation and the growing concern for the hostages' safety. The clock was ticking, and with each passing moment, the tension ratcheted up another notch. In Kandahar, the hijackers' demands became chillingly clear. They wanted the release of 3 dreaded terrorists imprisoned in India, including the notorious Maulana Masood Azhar, the leader of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, a man with the blood of countless innocents on his hands. For India, it was a bitter pill to swallow, a moral dilemma of unprecedented proportions. The hostage crisis became a national trauma for India, broadcast live into living rooms across the country. The faces of the terrified passengers, the anguished families waiting for news, became a collective wound on the nation's psyche. The government, caught between the unbearable pressure of the hijackers' demands and the moral imperative to protect its citizens, found itself on a razor's edge. Section 5. The weight of a nation's tears. India's impossible choice. Days turned into a torturous week as the Indian government found itself locked in a deadly game of brinkmanship. The hijackers, growing increasingly impatient, issued deadlines, their threats echoing across the airwaves. The world watched, a silent audience to this agonizing drama, the stakes escalating with every passing hour. Inside the hijacked plane, conditions deteriorated. The air grew thick with the smell of sweat and fear. The hostages, physically and emotionally drained, clung to hope, their eyes reflecting the trauma of their ordeal. The world watched, hearts heavy with empathy and helplessness, as the crisis spiraled towards an unknown resolution. Section 6. A Bitter Victory. The Release and Its Echoes. On December 31st, 1999, after a week of agonizing negotiations and unbearable pressure, the Indian government made a decision that would have far-reaching consequences. They agreed to the hijackers' demands, releasing the 3 terrorists in exchange for the safe return of the hostages. It was a decision made with a heavy heart, a bitter pill swallowed to save innocent lives. The hostages, pale and exhausted but alive, finally stepped back onto Indian soil. The nation breathed a collective sigh of relief, but the victory felt hollow, the price paid too high. The release of the terrorists, a concession to terror, left a deep scar on India's psyche. The nation had been forced to negotiate with terrorists, and the world had witnessed its vulnerability. Section 7. The Serpent uncaged Masood Azhar's reign of terror. The release of Maulana Masood Azhar proved to be a catastrophic error, a testament to the dangerous concessions made under the duress of terrorism. He returned to Pakistan, not as a reformed man but as a conquering hero, his stature bolstered by the hijacking. His organization, the Jaish-e-Mohammed, emboldened by his release, unleashed a reign of terror, targeting Indian security forces and civilians alike. The spectre of IC814 continued to haunt India. The ghost of that hijacking would return again and again in the form of suicide bombings, grenade attacks, and the relentless drumbeat of terror emanating from across the border. The price of that compromise, made in the heat of the moment, would continue to be paid in blood. Section 8. The Unhealed Wound. IC814 and the Future of Indian Security. The hijacking of IC814 remains a watershed moment in India's history, a chilling reminder of the human cost of terrorism and the complex challenges of combating it. It forced a nation to confront its vulnerabilities, its security apparatus found wanting in the face of such brazen acts of terror. In the aftermath of IC814, India embarked on a path of strengthening its security apparatus, tightening its counter-terrorism laws and bolstering its intelligence-gathering capabilities. But the ghosts of that hijacking continue to linger, a stark reminder that the fight against terrorism is a long and arduous one, demanding constant vigilance and an unwavering commitment to safeguarding the values of democracy and freedom. The legacy of IC814 serves as a constant reminder of the human cost of these conflicts and the ever-present threat that terrorism poses to the world.